Do not sell your house until you watch this video. Hi, I'm Jim Fong, realtor and investor here in Las Vegas. I've been selling residential real estate here in Vegas since 2005. And today I want to talk to you about selling your home. Right now, it's kind of a market with a lot of uncertainty, all right? There's low inventory, but high interest rate. A lot of sellers have been asking me, hey, Jim, is this a good time to sell? The answer is not so simple because it's like it depends on what your situation is. And I'll tell you, frequently asked questions about selling a home, and hopefully that will help you make a more informed decision whether selling in this market is the right thing for you. What do I have to do to get my house ready to sell? Most commonly, what I would do is I'd go and assess the property. Everybody's idea of good shape is different, right? So sometimes someone say, oh, my house is great, perfect condition. I'll go over there and I'll say, no, looks like you need to paint the house. Looks like you need to clean up the landscaping. You need to fix all these holes in the wall or things like that. Like, you definitely want to show it in the best light. I don't think it's ever a bad idea to get a fresh coat of paint on things. It just freshens things up, makes things look just more move-in ready at some point, right? And then of course, if there's obvious repairs that need to be done, I mean, if you have a light fixture that you have some, cables hanging out of the wall, you got to get that fixed, right? I mean, if your yard is covered in leaves and weeds and stuff, you need to get that addressed. You just have to make it look as good as it could possibly look. And we have to decide what your budget is in getting it ready, right? Because if you're on a tight budget, maybe you can't afford to get the whole house painted. You'll have to touch things up. If your budget's tight, maybe you can't re-landscape, but at least just get a blower out there and clean it up and make it more presentable, better curb appeal. Have you thought about selling your home and you're wondering, do I have to get a real estate agent to help me? Well, the answer to this is it depends, right? How familiar are you with selling residential real estate? If you're not that familiar with it, might be a good idea to get a real estate agent, right? But I know a lot of times sellers ask this question, it's because they want to save money on commission. Because commissions on average, I mean, they're anywhere from 4 to 6% for the sale of a house. So on a $500,000 home, I mean, your selling costs are going to be $20,000 to $30,000 for commissions alone, right? So I understand why you're asking why you would want to use a real estate agent or not. All right. So the answer is you don't actually have to use a real estate agent, but you have to think about how will you market this property, right? There's websites out there now where you can list it for yourself, Zillow or whatever. Put your house on there, all right? Put your phone number on there. I'll warn you now, you're going to be inundated with investors and wholesalers calling you, trying to get a good deal out of you now, right? Because they know you want money and they know you want to save money, and they're going to entice you with like a cash offer. They're going to say, hey, no showings, no repairs. I'll give you this cash price, right? I'll guarantee you that cash price is well below market value, all right? Because that's what they're paying for, right? They want to get a good deal so they can fix it up and then sell it for a profit. You don't have to use a real estate agent, but the benefits of using a real estate agent is that they will know the local market, they'll know what the market value for your home is, and they'll know how to negotiate in the market. For example, for sellers, for us right now, I mean, we're in a market with lower inventory right now. So how do you negotiate and navigate through multiple offers? How do you get buyers to bid up to the highest price, right? Or the best terms for you, right? It's not always about price, right? Because you can get the highest price, but they might want you to do a bunch of repairs. Well, so how do we make it most convenient for you, get you the highest price and the most friendliest terms? Something these days are called lease back or rent backs. That is when you sell a property and then you get to stay in it for an agreed amount of time, so you can go find another property and you're not doing two moves, right? That's a very common thing. So those are terms that you can negotiate. And then also, how familiar are you with title reports? You have to sell a property with clean and clear title. And if the buyer of this property is getting a mortgage on your property, how do you keep track with repair requests? How do you keep track with appraisal and all these things in between? And does your home have a HOA? How do you deal with these issues? How do you transfer, your HOA to the new buyer? What costs are involved in that? All right. So these are all things that you should get familiar with if you plan on selling your house without an agent. So do you have to use an agent? No, You don't, but it might be a good idea too, especially if his name is Jim Fong. I mean, if you sold like one or two houses in your life, chances are things change over the years. It has for me, for sure. I mean, 2005 till now, very different how business is done. However, if you sold so many houses already and you know what you're doing already, you should probably even think about getting a license. So now you are using a real estate agent and you can save money by not paying yourself to do this job. So you're thinking about selling your house because you want to buy another house. When should you start looking at new property? And here's the thing. I understand there's a lot of people out there, a lot of sellers out there that want to say, hey, I want to know that I have a house that I want to buy before I even think about selling, right? In many ways, you're kind of putting the carriage in front of the horse, I guess, right? Because you need to sell the house for to have the money so you can put it as a down payment on buying a new house, right? So you might not be able to do it in that way, right? I do encourage you to look at a few properties just so you know that there are homes out there that you would be okay with once you sell. But the problem is you're not going to be able to buy the house before you sell the house, right? So you have to actually know and be okay with that. I know I will find something out there. What's on the market right now shows me that I will be able to find something down the road, okay? So it doesn't hurt to start looking at properties, but definitely don't look at too many properties or don't fall in love with properties because that house might not even be available by the time you're ready to buy or make offers on it. And there's a good chance that if you even wanted to make an offer on it, you'd have to make what they call a contingent offer. That's basically saying, I will buy your house once I'm able to sell my house. And through the eyes of a seller, that is also you right now. So think about that. Would you want to accept an offer from a potential buyer that says, I'll buy your house, but I have to sell my house first? So when you think about it like that, is like, is that the strongest offer for you? Because you're making all these plans based on someone else's plans, and you don't know if they're priced well, how their home looks. I mean, if you're working with a real estate agent, they should be doing that research for you, of course. Like, when should you start looking for a house? I think you should start looking for a house to buy to replace the other house once you've opened escrow on selling your house, right? Because now you're a little more solid and you're more further along in the process where if you find a house that you do like, you can make an offer on it. And you're like, yeah, I need to sell a house and I'm already in escrow. All right. The further along, the better, right? Oh, inspections have already been done. Appraisals have been done. We're just waiting to sign and close. Well, that's really solid. And I think a potential seller will consider your offer much stronger if you're in that position. But if you haven't even listed your house on the market yet, I would suggest doing that first before you actually really seriously start looking at other properties. What if I want to stay in the house a little bit longer after I close so I don't have to move twice because I'm waiting for my other home to close for me to move into, right? With that situation is absolutely, depending on the market that you're in, you probably are able to negotiate some type of rent back or lease back, right? You closed on the property, but you've negotiated that you get to stay there for another month or two as you close on the next property or plan your move or something like that. That's very common these days now, right? And usually you determine the rent amount by either what the mortgage payment might be or what the current market value is as well. All right. So if your mortgage is a little higher than current rent, don't be surprised if the buyer wants you to cover that mortgage payment for them while you live there. All right. But market rent is usually the more fair approach on this. Okay. They may ask you for a security deposit. And just remember, security deposits are fully refundable, but that just protects the buyer in this situation that, you don't trash the house before you actually move into it because it's actually closed now. It's hard for them to come back and ask you to do repairs once the deal is closed, right? So that's what security deposits are for in leaseback situations. But if you're thinking about selling and wanting to stay in the house a little bit after closing, absolutely, you can do a rent back or a lease back. And your real estate agent should know how to negotiate that for you, especially if the name is getting down. How do I know what my home is worth? Okay, I get this question all the time too. Some people even go as far as saying, should I get my house appraised so I know how much it's worth, right? For me, I always look at it like this. If I have a client and he's a seller and they want to know, well, how do I determine the price of this listing, right? Well, I'm going to do what they call run comps on the property, right? And basically what that really means is I'm going to look for comparable properties to your property. Size, features, location, things like that. If your house is a one-story, I'll look at other one-story homes. homes, or it's a 2-story, other 2-story homes. If it's a 3-car garage, if you have a pool, we have to find homes that are similar to yours. All right. And then we're going to see what they sold for. How long were they on the market? Did the seller give any concessions for anything? We're also going to look at the condition of the property. I mean, if the property was completely upgraded and decked out and your property is a little more original, we'd have to make those adjustments as well too, and vice versa too. If your property is completely renovated and pristine, and your neighbor that sold recently that's comparable to yours is super outdated and needs a bunch of work and just not as nice as yours, we would make adjustments for that as well too. But that's kind of how we determine the price of your property. All right, it's just finding similar sales, and that gives us kind of the market value for the property. All right. If you hire an appraiser to do this for you, they're going to charge you probably like $600-700, and they're pretty much going to do a similar thing too. They're going to look at similar properties that have sold, and they're going to make very detailed adjustments all the way. Again, remember, an appraisal is just an opinion though by that single appraiser. All right. Just like if I were to run comps on your house, I would be forming my own opinion on this. Of course, I would work with you as a seller to determine what's a fair number, okay? I mean, because if inventory is low, we might be able to look at the last sale price and maybe bump it up a little bit just to account for a shortage of inventory, right? Or if there's a bunch of homes in your neighborhood for sale and they've been sitting there for a long time, you want to sell faster than them, we might have to make adjustments for that as well too. All right. So pricing your home, it's more of an art, less of a science, but we look at the numbers of what has sold recently near you. Should you price your home higher or lower? And what do I mean by that? Well, let's just say that we've established what a market value range for you is. Let's just say, looks like your house should sell around $500,000. Okay. Some sellers will say, well, there's not a lot of homes on the market. Can I try 525? Well, if your house is in good shape, easily accessible, and there's low inventory, yeah, why not? Let's price it a little higher. Let's give us a little negotiating room in case if they ask for repairs or any concessions like towards closing costs and things like that. Absolutely, we can definitely go a little higher. What would be the benefit of pricing it a little lower? This is a strategy that I've seen used a lot more recently these days with low inventory. Let's say your home is probably valued around $500,000. And let's say we list it at $475. All right, that's super juicy. Everybody's going to want to look at it. Everyone's going to make an offer on it. All of a sudden, you have a multiple offer situation. You have a bidding war going on now. Someone's going to offer you $475, $480, $490. They're going to go all the way up. And that way, it's nice because you're going to draw out the highest bidder on this. There's two strategies here. I mean, if you want a quick sale, maybe cash offer, you might want to price it a little lower, all right? Because the benefit of that is you find out the most committed buyers at that point, right? Because when someone's like, you know what, I'll give you this number. I'm not going to ask for any repairs. I won't ask for anything. I just really, really want this house, right? Well, you have a committed buyer, right? If you priced it high and someone feels that they paid a little high for it and things start going sideways during your escrow, they might cancel the deal on you. They might say, you know what, giving you this much already and you don't even want to leave the washer and dryer. You know what, I'm going to cancel the deal. Plus you have some broken roof tiles. All right. So there's two strategies here. It depends on your situation. I personally like to price listings near the price I think it's going to sell anyways, right? Because if it's too big of a discrepancy, you might run into appraisal issues, right? Let's say you list a $500,000 home for $400,000 and someone offers you $475 for it. An appraiser might say, whoa, $75,000 over list price. I don't know about this, right? Pricing high is also not a bad strategy either, because let's say you list this at $550 and you get $525 for it. The buyer might feel like they got a good deal because they knocked off $25,000, but you will get a good deal because you actually got $25,000 over market value possibly. So it's a case by case scenario. You should definitely consult with your real estate agent on that. You decided you do want to sell your house, and you decided you do want to still use a real estate agent, and together you've determined what the sale price is. The house is going on the market now. So what's next? this is the part where some sellers will ask me, do I need to get it appraised first? My suggestion on that too is, I don't think you need to get it appraised, but if you really want to get it appraised, let's say you have a very unique home, right? In Las Vegas, we have a lot of tract home communities. Some people say they're cookie cutter or whatever like that. If you live in a tract home community and there's a lot of recent sales of similar properties, I would say you probably don't need an appraisal. If you own a property that is very unique, like a custom home or a luxury home, you have a large lot or a unique view or something special to the house and it's not easy to just find a model match, then you may want to use an appraiser on this one, right? So the choice is yours, all right? Do I need to get an inspection on the property first? Again, not a bad idea to do it. I mean, if you know there's some lingering issues in your home and you want to see what those are, you want to get some of the repairs done and out of the way first so it doesn't kill a deal for you, that's not a bad idea either, all right? But I also want you to know that the buyer most likely will get an inspection and find all these things as well too. So I've had some sellers say, well, I want it fixed already so they don't find anything. The problem with that is inspectors are paid to find problems, right? So if they don't have a big problem to find, they'll find little problems, right? Oh, this chip in the paint or something like that too. So, you're never going to get rid of all the problems, right? And, some sellers have even liked using the strategy of, let me leave a couple problems so I can fix them during escrow, right? So you feel good about it too, right? So, I mean, it's a personal decision for you. I would say, unless you are aware of some big problems, I don't think you need to get an inspection done ahead of time, but if you want to, that's your money. My house is on the market now. Are you going to hold an open house for me? I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about open houses in real estate, all right? Open houses are seldom used to actually sell the house. Open houses are used for real estate agents to find prospective buyers of property. If they want to buy the house that they're having an open house at, great, no problem, right? The chances are they're really looking for those people that are looking to buy, but maybe the open house property was not the one they're looking for. But hey, you know what? Let me help you find something else. Open houses are kind of used as ways for real estate agents to prospect and find other prospective buyers for real estate. All right. That's not to say that they don't work, because open houses are convenient. Because what if you are living in the house still and you don't want to be bothered with all these showings and stuff? You can make it like a whole weekend open house where it's open Saturday and Sunday, come one, come all, right? Like if you have a hot listing, you're going to get an offer, by the weekend, have an open house. Everyone can come. You don't have to schedule appointments. You just clean the house really nice one time and you open escrow. It's not a bad idea too. Do they really help the house get sold? Kind of, sort of, but it's going to be depending on your situation, all right? Consult with your real estate agent. Name Jim Fong. Do I have to have a lockbox on my house, right? Because a lot of sellers aren't really comfortable with it. It's kind of like, no, I don't want my key just out there where people can just come in whenever. Just, I'm living here still, I want a sense of privacy. Totally understandable. I just want you to know, in our market, lockboxes can only be accessed by real estate professionals, right? So, when someone opens up the lockbox, we're going to see their name, their contact info, what brokerage they are at, who their broker is. So, like, if they leave a door unlocked or something happens, we know the last person in the house, all right? And the advantages of it too is if you have a lockbox, you don't have to wait around for people to show up, right? You just leave, run an errand, do something. You don't have to wait to unlock the door for somebody or leave it unlocked as you leave, right? So I think that kind of helps too. And as a real estate agent, it helps me track and follow up with all these agents that have shown the property. If you don't have a lockbox, it's hard to determine who actually has shown up, right? Because not every real estate agent is going to leave their business card on that counter for you, right? Someone might forget. Are lockboxes necessary? No, but they definitely tend to make things a little more convenient and make it more accessible. And as a seller, you want your home very accessible, because the easier it is for more buyers to see your home, the more buyers will see it and the more likeliness of you selling it for top dollar. And furthermore, like a lot of times inspectors will have access to use the lockbox as well. So if you're at work or something and needs to be inspected, it just makes it easier and more convenient for, again, real estate professionals to access the house. Something that your real estate agent should tell you this is put away your valuables, all right? Put away, don't leave your gold chains and diamond rings all on the nightstand. Like, put them away, all right? If you have medicine, put those away, okay? If you have firearms and guns, definitely keep those locked up. Don't leave your bands on the counter either, right? Just don't leave cash all around like that. That would be weird and funny. Like, if you had a money gun just full of cash, don't leave it laying around. Put it away, right? So that's all I'm saying. What do I need to do to stage my house? First and foremost, you got to declutter it, all right? If you've seen like a model home before, that's a better idea. Like, I always tell people, make it look like a model home. And what do I mean by that? Make it seem like it's all for show. Because when you live at home, you have stuff on the countertop. But when you're trying to make it look nice, you clear the countertops, all right? All you have is maybe a couple decorative items, all right, just to make it look nice. But don't have your mail stacked there. Don't have dirty dishes on the sink. Don't even have a drying rack on the countertop. Like, you want it to look like no one actually lives there. It's just done nice to look nice. Furthermore, if you have pets, you want your house to seem like you don't even have a pet living there. That means pet odors, dog bowls, leashes, cat toys and stuff like that. Like, you want all that stuff out of there, because, and reason being is, hey, listen, I love my dog a lot too, but that's my dog, all right? I don't want to smell your dog. And there's people that aren't totally comfortable with that. And I'm not talking about, animal rights here. We're talking about selling your house for top dollar, right? So if you want to sell it for top dollar, make it look like a pet does not live there, even though one does. I had mentioned this before too, but if you can do a fresh coat of paint, that always helps. Fresh landscaping always helps. I would even suggest maybe putting away very personal items or photos, right? If you have one of those homes where you have all these family pictures all over the house and all that, I would definitely reduce some of that stuff, all right? If you're very religious, you have Jesus pictures and crosses up, I think you should maybe put those items away too. Just because someone can come in and it could be a turn off or something like that. I mean, again, the goal is to sell your house for the top dollar, all right? Not to question your religious beliefs or anything like that. And then also, you want it as neat and tidy as possible. If you don't make the bed normally and you're selling the house, you need to start making your bed. If you just have like a laundry area, well, that's got to be hidden now, all right? I know a laundry room, some people just throw clothes and towels, whatever in there. Nope, that's a part of the house that you're trying to sell too. Make it neat and tidy, all right? The only place that I give people a pass, honestly, is maybe the garage, all right? Garages are kind of intended for storage, all right? So if you want to thin out your house and just put a bunch of junk into the garage, I think that's acceptable, all right? I think your backyard should be very staged as well too. Make it look nice, make it warm and inviting, like people are going to come over and barbecue at your house or something. If you have pets, make sure the yard's cleaned up, okay? If your grass is overgrown or you have weeds, clean all that up, all right? You just don't want to leave it looking messy at all right? You just want it to show in its best light. You think about deodorizing your house possibly too. I think that's sometimes overlooked, right? You don't ever want your house to smell overpowered by like potpourri or something like that, but it never hurts to have a little air freshener or maybe burn a candle or something. I mean, having a warm, inviting smell is always a nice thing. They've done surveys on this stuff, right? They say, fresh baked goods are always warm and inviting, or like vanilla, stuff like that. But to be honest with you, I'm not a vanilla fan actually. So I would say make it smell like clean. I like the clean smell. Like, I think they have some fragrances that are like, oh, fresh laundry or clean linens or something. Like, I like those type of smells because it just smells clean. Using like Febreze or plugins, things like that. Those are all good ideas to do, but just don't make it overpowering though. You don't want to come in and, activate someone's allergies or something either. All right. Do you need a professional stager? Probably not. I mean, I would hope that your agent would be able to guide you in the right direction. I think you might need a professional stager if you have a high-end luxury home and it's completely vacant and you need to kind of showcase it a little more. You have a big house and you need to make it look more than a big box. I think you might hire a professional stager at that point. But nowadays, I mean, there's virtual staging too. If you have a vacant home, they can always put like fake furniture or digital appliances in your home. That's something to consider. I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. All right. I think your real estate agent should be able to help you with those things. Do I have to leave for showings? My answer is absolutely. All right. I know sometimes some agents are like, well, maybe, and oh, it's not convenient for my client to leave all the time and stuff like that. I want you to know that it's my opinion that sellers should definitely leave for showings, okay? For many, many reasons. Number one, a buyer is just not going to be as comfortable looking at the property if a seller's following them around and saying, "Oh, I did this too. I painted that, and this is great, and I did this. This is imported from Italy." Like nobody wants to hear all of that. All right, your real estate agent should already let the whole world know all the upgrades that you have done. You shouldn't have to go around and point all the features of your home to potential buyers. That's the job of your real estate agent. All right, so it's best for you as a seller to get out of the way. All right, let the buyer feel comfortable. All right, it's not comfortable when you're following them around and asking them stuff or telling them stuff. All right, you should leave. All right, number two, if you stick around and the buyer really wants the property, oh, you might get cornered by the agent and the buyer and start trying to negotiate with you directly too, right? And that's an uncomfortable position, right? Again, that's the job of your real estate agent. If they really like the house and they start trying to talk to you like, what if I give you this? What if I do this? Will you accept it right now? What do you think? No, you want your real estate agent to earn their commission and actually negotiate for you. All right, so you don't want that situation. If they really like the house, they're going to send an offer to your agent. You don't need to be there. And here's the thing too, again, if you want a buyer to feel comfortable in your home and actually envision them being the homeowner and living in the property, you don't want to follow them around because you're going to give them the impression that it's your house still. You want them to feel like it's going to be their house and they can picture themselves living there. This is where they would put their furniture. This is going to be so-and-so's room, and this is how I would set it up. All right. They don't want the feelings of you are the owner still. You want them to feel that they're the future owner, right? And that is why I had said remove all the personal stuff, all right? Because you want them to feel like this is their future home, not your home. And finally, the reason why you should leave the house during showing. There are people out there that are very nice. They don't want to hurt your feelings. They're going to tell you how great the house is. They love it. And all of a sudden, your hopes are sky high. Oh, I think they really loved it. I think I'm going to get an offer. And when reality is, they're just trying to be polite and nice. Oh, that looks great. That looks great. As soon as they leave your property, they're like, oh my God, we need to get out of there, right? Okay, so save yourself that letdown, all right? And just take a walk, take a drive, run an errand, okay? Do not stick around for showings, okay? So now your home's been on the market and you've accepted an offer now. Now you're in escrow. What should I expect now? Will you still live in the house? Okay. Well, the house is still yours. You can absolutely still live in the house while you're in escrow. You probably should be making plans on moving and packing up though. So that's totally fine. And what you can expect once you're in escrow is the buyer will schedule a time where an inspector comes to your house. They'll inspect everything from the roof all the way to the foundation, right? So you want to make sure that the house is accessible for the inspector. All right. If you have boxes jammed up on every wall and every place of the house, it's going to be hard for the inspector to do their job properly. All right. And, is that going to be a problem? Well, it could be because they can say, well, hey, the seller did not give me access to the attic, or the garage is completely full. I couldn't check the water heater or anything like that, right? Like that's going to cause a delay in your escrow process, right? They might need to come back and re-inspect. I would say start packing, thinning things out, and do expect an inspector to come to go through your whole house. You also have to be prepared for an appraiser to come by your house. Their job is much quicker. They're probably just going to run through your house real quick and make sure that it's in fair condition. They'll look for smoke detectors, earthquake straps, little silly things like that, and then they're gonna say, okay, cool. But you do want to be nice to the appraiser and inspectors, right? Because if you're not, probably going to be more items showing up on those reports. They wouldn't admit that, but I think it's always a good idea to be nice to inspectors and appraisers. Well, maybe you're packing up your house and you decide, hey, I don't want this furniture. I don't want this sectional anymore, or this 85-inch TV on the wall. I don't want to have to move anymore. I'm just going to buy a new one or something like that. Can I sell this with the house? The answer to this is your personal items are considered personal property, and things that are attached to the house are considered real property. Furniture and things like that, you can sell them to the buyer, but they cannot be part of the real estate transaction. And if it is, it cannot have any value to it, right? Meaning, like, you negotiate at a price and you want $2,000 for some furniture or something like that. That can't be rolled into their mortgage, all right? It'd probably be best for them to just pay for that outside of escrow, because once you start rolling these things into mortgages, it just makes a complete mess, and it's gonna throw a wrench in your transaction, all right? So if you do want to sell the furniture, I suggest doing this outside of the escrow process. Things like appliances, you can negotiate, but you can't put much value onto it, right? Like if you get top dollar and they wanted your refrigerator, washer and dryer and things like that, I would just include it as part of the sale, but you can't say, well, that was $5,000 more. You can sell things, but if they're personal property, I would suggest doing it outside of the escrow process. Okay, so let's say an inspection occurred and an appraisal occurred, and there are some repairs that have been asked to be performed, all right? What are essential ones, okay? Well, it's always gonna be safety, okay? Safety is the number one priority here, all right? Let's just say you have some wires that need to be capped off for safety reasons. Well, you should do that, right? Let's say there's an active leak. You should fix that, all right? Just for yourself even. You shouldn't live with an active leak, all right? Electrical problems, plumbing issues, roof repairs, those are negotiable. A big item is going to be HVAC, all right? So that's your AC and your heater, all right? Those often are big items for buyers to, want to have done. I would probably say those need to be done. But once they start asking for, this door handle's a little loose, or there's a little chip in the paint here, like, I would say, those are not essential in my opinion. Let's talk about water heaters too. I mean, they have earthquake straps for water heaters, right? And I'm in Las Vegas. We don't really have a bunch of earthquakes here, but however, if you get some type of FHA or VA mortgages, they do require those items, right? It's not an expensive thing. I would say just do it, all right? If your smoke detectors are not working, I would say replace those, all right? Those are safety things, and you should have those done. If it's just not convenient for you to do all these repairs, you also always have the option to give the buyer a credit. Say, hey, you know what? I'm not a handyman, but I'll credit you $2,000 and you get all those things fixed. You probably can get some estimates first, so you can kind of know what's a fair amount to credit somebody. You don't want to give someone too much money, but it might not be reasonable to offer $200 to get an AC fixed or something like that too. Credits can be sometimes used in lieu of repairs. Now we're getting ready to close, and you probably wonder, how much money am I actually going to get? What are all my costs that are involved and things like that? Your biggest cost might be a mortgage balance, actually. All right. If you owe a lot of money on that, that has to get paid off first. All right. Another big chunk is probably the real estate commissions. All right. That whatever you've negotiated with your agent, that's going to be a big cost right there, the commissions, all right? But then you have regular seller costs like needing title insurance, all right? You need to sell the house with free and clear title, right? So you do need to provide this title insurance for the buyer. Depending on the price of your home, that will vary. I mean, there are going to be recording fees, notary fees, things like that too, all right? And if you live in a house with an HOA, you're going to have fees that you have to, buy all the rules and regulations and bylaws and give it to the new buyer, right? And then you might actually have to pay for a transfer fee to transfer the account from your name to the next buyer. There are property transfer taxes as well too, okay? So you don't know, I mean, that depends. That could be negotiated. Maybe the buyer paid it, maybe you pay it. Very customary is a lot of sellers have just kind of gotten used to providing a home warranty for buyers, all right? It's not necessary. A lot of sellers that I talk to, they almost assume that they do it. Oh, I have to provide that, don't I? Because chances are when they bought the house, that seller provided it to them. So it's kind of been like a long time pay it forward thing with this home warranty thing, all right? So you may need to pay that. There might be a couple little fees in there, but those are the major ones, okay? How long do you need to keep the utilities on as a seller, all right? You need to keep the utilities on until the closing date. so the inspector can inspect the property, the appraiser can check it out, and then you also need to leave them on so the buyer can do a final walkthrough of the property. You can't just turn it over to them and they go in and there's no power, water, gas, or anything like that. You need to leave those on until the closing date. So you're in escrow and you're waiting to close, but your next mortgage payment's due. Should you pay that still? The answer is depends, okay? It's like this, all right? The escrow company is going to get a final payoff for your mortgage, right? So depending on how good that date is for, it could include this next payment, right? But if you decide to make the payment and it reduces your payoff, then you'll just get more back to you at closing, right? I think, we're as real estate agents, we've always been trained to tell our clients, no, do pay them still, because you don't want to get a late pay, right? Because if a delay in escrow happens and you didn't pay it and all of a sudden you have a, late payment on your credit report, that would be a bad way of hurting your credit, right? If you're unsure, I would just keep paying it. But, if you've talked to your escrow or title officer and they're like, hey, your payout is good for this amount, you don't need to pay it, then maybe you could skip paying it. But same thing goes for things like HOA and things like that too. If you pay it and you end up closing and the whole month is not over yet, they'll prorate that amount. Let's just say your HOA is $150 and you closed on the 15th. Well, you would get a $75 credit back to you because they prorate that amount. And the same goes with your mortgage as well. So when does your stuff need to be out of this house? All right. Your stuff should be out of the house before closing, depending on what's written in the contract. But most time, the house should be vacated by you prior to the closing, because when the closing date happens, the property's not yours anymore. Like, let's say they wired their money, they got the loan, and they recorded the property in the buyer's name. Well, you're not the owner anymore. You should have been out of there by now. So prepare to be out of the house prior to closing, all right? Unless something has been negotiated, like a rent back or something like that. But otherwise, plan on being out before the closing. Do I need to change the locks? The answer would be no. No, just leave the locks. That's something for the next buyer to worry about, all right? Because I know some buyers that actually don't change the locks, which is crazy to me, all right? If I buy a house, I'm going to change all the locks because I don't know who has keys out there and things like that too. So do you as a seller need to change the locks? No, you do not. Well, I couldn't really imagine you having any more questions after such a thorough video, but if you do, please leave a comment below and I'll gladly do a part 2 on this. And if you're deciding whether you want to use an agent or not, and you realize now that it's a little more work than you thought it was, I would love to help you. My name is Jim Fong. I'm a realtor and an investor in Las Vegas. Thanks for watching this video. I'll catch you on the next one.